Hey, everybody. Happy, okay, I don't, happy Saturday here. I think I have something playing in the background. Let me stop that. We should be good now. Happy Saturday. Thanks for tuning in if you're watching. I really appreciate you coming on to listen to me talk about this case with Gene Hackman and his wife being found dead in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Um, I was really surprised when I woke up the other morning and I saw this on the news. Um, and the reason I was so at first so interested in it, at first I thought, oh my gosh, this could be maybe a suicide, and maybe it still is. We don't know what the ruling is going to be regarding manner and of death and cause of death. But the reason it piqued my interest so much is because I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico last year for the Alec Baldwin trial. And when I was out there, I heard a lot about Gene Hackman living out in Santa Fe. And he's lived out there for a really, really long time. He retired from Hollywood, kind of said bye to Hollywood, hung out in Santa Fe, does a lot of artwork or did a lot of artwork, was involved in some businesses in the art scene out there. I think he actually wrote a book too. So it was very well known and conveyed to me when I was out there, like, yeah, Gene Hackman lives here. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I was kind of like, if we run into Gene Hackman while we're out here, that'd be amazing. Like, could you imagine if we ran into him just out on the street? Because I guess he was known to hang out downtown sometimes and stuff like that. So I found it to be incredibly shocking when I woke up and turned on the news Wednesday morning, as I always do, and drink my coffee. And I saw this. So it's crazy. So we're going to go through everything we know about this so far. And please remember to subscribe and like and all of that stuff that you do here on YouTube. But I wanted to start by playing a little bit of a clip from The Firm, which is one of my favorite Gene Hackman roles. So I dug this up because I just, he was such a good villain because he's like such a nice guy at the beginning of the movie. And then you kind of find out that he got corrupted by the firm. So I think it's a really cool clip that I found. So it's just like when he's introduced into the film, and I went digging around for this. I loved The Firm. I can't remember if I actually watched The Firm in the theater or not. It's very possible that I did. It's very possible, or I may have just like rented it from Blockbuster or something back then. We didn't have Netflix, of course, back then. I'm dating myself, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and play this clip. I love this clip. He's a great, really great actor. I have it. I don't want to play any more of it because you know how that could be. Could get in trouble from, I don't know. We'll call that's fair use, right? Just a little clip there to show you. But yeah, Jackie C says Blockbuster nights were the best. Yeah. Do you remember going into Blockbuster and you go in there and just hope that they had enough copies of the movie that you wanted to watch? But I just have to say The Firm, that was such a good movie because there were so many famous actors in there. And one of the things that I thought was so around the age I was watching this movie, the fact that Wilford Brimley was in it and he basically plays like this really bad guy, bad dude, and a hitman and stuff like that. He had been on this show, I think it was called Our House or something like that. And he seemed like this nice grandpa. I'll tell you what, when I lived in Wisconsin, I actually met Wilford Brimley. He was at the Fox Cities Performing Arts Center when I worked in the Green Bay market. And he was there doing a performance. And we went and interviewed him about whatever he was doing. I don't even remember. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to get to meet Wilford Brimley. He's like this great actor. And he, he just seemed like such a nice grandpa on that Our House show with Deidre Hall. And I think Shannon Doherty might have been in it too. And then we get there, and he was kind of grumbly and grumpy. And maybe it's just because he was older. Very nice man. I mean, he was very nice, but he was a little grumpy and grumbly. And I think he was, he was a lot older when I interviewed him, and he seemed to have some maybe health issues and stuff like that. But that was really interesting. I got to meet Wilford Brimley. Anyway, but this whole Gene Hackman death investigation, at first, my first thought was, wow, I wonder if they were depressed. And, we didn't have a lot of information. It's 7 a.m. on the, Eastern time, and they found them the day before, but the news really broke overnight. And I thought to myself, what could it be? Could this have been a suicide? Were they depressed? There's an age difference between the two. Gene Hackman, 95 years old. I think he had just recently turned 95, even though he was considered in good health, I guess, for that age. You just don't know what's going on in people's lives. You just don't know what the dynamics are, which is really sad. So throughout the day on Wednesday, I thought, I got the alert on my phone, and plus I had, the news on. I always have it on with the volume down while I'm working. And then it said, oh, they're calling the death suspicious. And suspicious just means they can't tell what happened. They're looking and they can't tell, is this a homicide? Is it a suicide? Is this an accident? Like, there's no obvious signs of trauma to the body, that type of thing. So they have to do some further investigation. So a lot of people say, think suspicious immediately means, oh gosh, it's going to be a homicide. And sometimes it is, but not always. Hi, Karen. Hi, Busby. Hi, Queen Olive, Ruth Ann. So right now, there's an investigation underway, of course, and the autopsies were conducted, but the results are not complete. There were no obvious signs of trauma to the body that we're hearing about. And then they've said also that the carbon monoxide tests came back negative, because a lot of people were thinking, oh, maybe this was a carbon monoxide type thing. And another weird thing about it was the fact that two of the dogs, were healthy and alive. I guess one outside, both were outside, but one was originally by Gene Hackman's wife, Betsy. And then Karen Lee says actor Randy Quaid going hard on X with the idea of them being intentionally unalived. And we don't know yet. Maybe we'll find that out. But I saw one of his tweets the other day about that. But I mean, we just don't know yet. We really don't know. I think we're going to have to wait and see. So, but to go back, and one of the dogs sadly was found like in a crate in the bathroom area with Betsy, dead. And maybe that dog, I'm assuming that dog likely dehydrated and or starved to death. So let's go back to the very beginning, and I want to listen to the 911 call. I'm going to share that here. The 911 call is pretty interesting, I think.
Son of 911, what is your emergency?
Hello, my name is Wade. I think we just found one deceased person inside a house. What's the address here? There's no address. I'm going to wait for you at the gate. I'm going to wait for you to please send somebody really quick.
Okay, what's going to be the address?
It's going to be 1 North Summit Drive down at the gatehouse. I'll meet you over there. I'll meet them over there. I'm the caretaker for the subdivision. I'm going to bring them up here.
Give me 1 second. 1 Summer Night?
1 North Summit Drive.
1 North Summit Drive. And what is
1 North Summit Drive. My name is... I'm the caretaker for the subdivision.
What's a good phone number for you in case we disconnect? Okay, give me 1 second. Let me speak with the paramedic.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second.
Damn.
It's hard to put into words the horrors that we've witnessed every day during our time here. Entire family.
Okay, so we'll pause that for a second. So you hear the so you can hear the dogs, or at least one of the dogs in the background barking. This had to be quite a scene. Can you imagine? You're the caretaker for the property or the subdivision, and then it's apparently two maintenance workers show up to take care of the property or to do something at the property, and they discover at least Betsy Arakawa's body in the house, or they can see it. You'll hear what they say about seeing her body.
Are you with the patient now?
I'm sorry?
Are you with the patient now?
Yeah, I'm over at their property. There's no address here. So I have to meet the ambulance or the police, whoever, down at the gatehouse. I'll bring them up here.
Okay. How old is the patient?
I have no idea.
You don't know? Okay, that's fine. Is the patient a male or a female?
A female and a male, probably. I don't know, sir. Just send somebody up here real quick.
Okay. Are they awake?
I have no idea.
Are they breathing?
I have no idea. I'm not inside the house. It's closed. It's locked. I can't go in. But I see them. She's laying down on a floor from the window.
Okay.
There she goes.
Okay. Do they appear to be completely awake?
On the way?
Do they appear to be awake or alert?
No. It's not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Did you hear them talk or cry?
No.
Okay. Okay. Are they moving at all?
No, dude, they're not moving. Just send somebody up here really quick.
Okay, my units are underway, okay?
I'm sorry?
My units are underway right now. And,
Okay, I'll meet them down at the gatehouse because they might not have the code.
okay. Also, is there any way...
That means that the probably cut off with you.
Okay. Also, is there any way that you can open the house, or is there like a hidden key so my units can access it?
I have no idea.
So the house is closed? The door is closed? Yeah.
I'm sorry? I'm going to meet them.
Okay, sir. My units are on their way, but can you confirm the address? Because I don't have a 1 North Summit Drive. Copy.
There is a 1 North Summit. That's where I work at.
Okay. You don't have like the actual address?
Okay, you can hear obviously this guy's frustrated. He's probably freaked out, right? You happen upon this and you see a body of somebody you know, and you have no idea what's going on. You call 911 and they're like, "Oh, this isn't there's no address." And he's like, "It's my address. I work here." So I'm sure he was literally very, very frustrated.
Address of the house of where this person lives?
I have no idea. There's no address. There's a reason why for that.
Okay. Okay. What is the closest intersection for where you're gonna wait for my unit? For direct information. Sir. Sir, what is the closest intersection that you're gonna be? Okay, so are you gonna be on a vehicle waiting for my unit, or are you gonna be on foot? in a vehicle waiting for my units, or are you going to be on foot?
I'm going down to the gatehouse right now.
To the gatehouse? Okay.
We're probably going to get cut off.
Okay. What are you wearing so my units know it's you?
I don't even know. You don't even know.
You're like,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
thank you. That's fine. And you still there? Hello, Ron.
I want an app.
Okay, so this ad is playing. I'll mute for that time. So, they're getting the people dispatched out there. I'm assuming EMTs, sheriff's deputies first to make sure everything's okay and safe for the people to go in, the EMTs. But obviously, they're staying on the line because they don't know what they have here. So this is pretty common.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm just like, it's like it's the way ambulance coming. If there's an ambulance coming out here.
Okay, what are you wearing so my units know it's you? You still there? I can barely understand you. You're coming in and out.
How come I don't hear anything, ambulance or anything? They're just right down there Fort Marston.
Okay, my units are on their way, okay?
Oh yeah, I hear something now.
Okay, just to confirm, is there any way my units can get into the house?
I'm sorry.
Is there any way my units can get into the house?
It's gated. I don't know the code number, but I could just bring him up to the house. The way we got in was just the wall. I could do it, and I can see it comes in and out all the time. Here comes I'm gonna let go.
Okay. So,
Here comes the unit out here. I thank you for your help. I appreciate you. Bye.
Okay, so there it is. You hear the ambulance and they're coming. And then they get in there and we find out from the search warrant affidavit, the affidavit for the search warrant that they got, that what they found. And so let's take a look at that because it's pretty interesting too. Very, very sad, it's certainly a mystery, and it could be any number of things, but we do know, obviously, that they are not, they didn't have obvious signs of trauma to their bodies. So it doesn't appear that they think somebody came in and, hit them over the head or they didn't have gunshot wounds or anything like that. Not to be so gruesome, but you know how these things work. You go in and you can see if somebody has obvious trauma, even if they've been there for a day or two or more. And we'll find out through this that they were definitely there for more than a day or two. So let me pull this up, bring the other item up. So here's the search warrant affidavit filled out by your affiant, Detective Roy Arndt. So I was interested to see who was going to be associated with this case because the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office has jurisdiction and they investigated the Rush shooting. This is the same sheriff, same sheriff's office, same potential investigators involved in this as were involved in the Alec Baldwin prosecution that, of course, blew up in spectacular fashion. That's the only way I can think of explaining it because I've never seen a prosecution implode the way Alec Baldwin's did last year. It was nuts. So I was very interested to see if I was going to see the names of the people involved in that case involved in this case. And I saw one of them in here. So we'll get to that. So Detective Roy Arndt, he's a detective. He's the one who filled this out or drafted it. I'm sure maybe with the help of the prosecutor's office. Items to be seized and collected: ignitable, flammable, explosive, and or combustible substances, whether solid, liquid, and or gas, and any container and or materials that may contain said substances and have said substance on them. That's a lot of words, a lot of gobbledygook there. Materials apparently used and or intended for use in administering aid and or assistance to injured people. They also wanted to collect any documents which appears to have personal identifying information of Eugene Jean Allen Hackman or Betsy Arakawa. This is standard procedure. They do that in case this thing goes to court. It establishes that they live there. This is their house. You've probably seen that if you're ever watching a trial. Personal identifying information, like they'll find a piece of mail, like a cable bill, water bill, something like that. Number 4 are narcotics and or any other controlled substances included, but not limited to any drug or substance listed in the schedules 1 through 5 of the Controlled Substance Act or regulations adopted there too. Number 5, documentation of the herein described premises, person, and or the herein described items to be seized by means of measurement, photography, videography. I'm sure they went over this place with a fine-tooth comb. This was another one that piqued my interest. I'm wondering, this is Gene Hackman, right? I mean, even though he's an older man and his wife is technically a senior citizen, did they have cameras? Everybody's got cameras these days, right? I mean, you've got cameras in your house. You can order them online very easily. I was wondering, do they have, cameras around the house? And what do those cameras show, if anything? So they were looking to seize cameras, video cameras, film, whether exposed or unexposed, photographic negatives, photographs, photographic prints, DVRs, any other images documented on any media, photography. Number 7, clothing belonging to or worn by Gene Hackman or Betsy. Number 8, photographs of the residence, including interior and exterior. Number 9, latent or visible prints, including but not limited to fingerprints or footwear impressions. All of this stuff is pretty standard. And the fact, though, that they're listing all of it, they're just trying to dot all of their I's and cross all of their T's in case this thing does ever go to court. But we're not even close to being there yet because there's still no cause and manner of death. Number 10, materials apparently used and or intended for use in administering aid and or assistance to injured people. 11, any weapons, tools, as instruments capable of causing sharp force trauma to the human body. Documents that establish or tend to establish ownership, possession, use, transfer, or right to ownership of herein described items to be seized. Any weapons, tools, instruments capable of causing blunt force trauma to the human body. Number 13, any items and or materials that have what appear to be impressions, marks, and or defects. 14, any records documented in any media which appear to be a password, personal identification number items used to access and facilitate said items to be searched. Number 15, biological fluids to include DNA, blood, or trace evidence. 16, telephones and or cellular telephones. They did find 2 phones. Number 17, in order to ensure that a complete and thorough investigation, investigators may be required to examine the entire above-mentioned premises, including but not limited to the examination of furniture, walls, plumbing, equipment, or gas lines in or around the residence. So he then goes out to lay out the facts. Basically, this call comes in at 1:43 on February 26th, this past Wednesday. Santa Fe County Patrol deputies Javier Barron and Joshua Thomas were dispatched to conduct a death investigation. Barron and Thomas arrived and they indicated they spoke to 2 individuals, one of which was the reporting party, the person we just heard on the 911 call, who found and located the front door of the residence to be opened / ajar. So that's been a pretty interesting little fact there. So it's like, who opened the door? Who had it ajar? I'd like to know, did Gene Hackman and his wife lock their doors? Is that something they commonly did? Were 2 of the dogs out loose and running around, possibly because Gene Hackman or his wife let those 2 out, but maybe not the 3rd dog, who was apparently found in the crate? Deputy Thomas identified the reporting party to be a male named redacted. Blank advised he works as a maintenance worker for a company called Home Company. The other maintenance worker was identified as redacted. Deputy Thomas told Affiant after speaking to the 2 males, he and Deputy Barron then walked to the front of the residence and found the front door ajar. He advised he did not observe any signs of forced entry to the home. So that's important. It doesn't mean that somebody who shouldn't have been in there wasn't in there, but it certainly means they didn't, if somebody was in there, and that's a big if at this point in time, they didn't force their way in. After Deputy Thomas entered the residence, he immediately observed a bathroom to the left of the front door. This is really interesting. This is the bathroom. The door to the bathroom was opened. Deputy Thomas advised he observed a deceased female laying on the ground near the countertop inside the bathroom. The female was observed laying on her right side. He advised she was found wearing dark gray sweatpants and a light in color sweatshirt. The female was observed to have black in color hair. So this is clearly Betsy. Deputy Thomas advised he observed a black in color space heater near the female's head. He advised he suspected the heater could have fallen in the event the female abruptly fell to the ground. He advised he also observed an orange prescription bottle on the countertop near the deceased female. The prescription bottle appeared opened with pills scattered on the countertop. So obviously, I am wondering. Oh, that's interesting. Mel Mack says maybe there was a doggy door. Yeah, you would think they'd put that in the search warrant affidavit, though, if there was a doggy door. Karen says, I speculate the dogs pushed the door ajar. Very possible. And I don't know. Obviously, we don't know these people. We don't know Gene Hackman. We don't know Betsy Arakawa. We don't know how they dressed. Betsy's wearing gray sweatpants and a gray sweatshirt. and the front door is ajar, and she's in the bathroom that's basically right by the front door. And there are pills scattered on the countertop, and she's laying on the floor with the space heater by her head. So I'm kind of like, wow, okay. Did she, it kind of makes you try to piece this together. And it's all speculation at this point. We just don't have enough information. But kind of makes you wonder, did she maybe have that front door open, or did she open that front door? We don't know what time of day they died. We don't know anything about their routines. We just know this maintenance worker finds her through the window, sees her, dead. It's horrible. Mel Max says, we have to wait for tox tests, I presume. Yeah, I think that's going to be very telling. The toxicology may very well tell the story here. And you can usually have preliminary autopsy results, and maybe they already have a good idea of what happened here, but they want to, because it's high profile, they want to be very careful and not put something out that isn't true. They're just waiting and being very careful until everything is in, and then they'll come out and say what they believed happened. But, I'm kind of going through this chronologically. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but Betsy is in this bathroom dead right off the front door that's ajar. So who knows? Like, I'm thinking, if you put all your dogs out, let's say you put your dogs out in the morning, let's just say you do that, or even at night, you just let them out. Maybe, it's a big property. You just let the dogs out to use the bathroom. Then you go back in, maybe you've already crated up one of the dogs for the night, or you haven't gotten that dog out of the crate yet for whatever reason, even though the other two are out. I don't know. Let's see. Let's go back to this. I was reading some of your comments there for a second. So Deputy Thomas advised that the female decedent showed obvious signs of death, body decomposition, bloating in her face, and mummification in both hands and feet. Yikes. I remember we covered a trial at Law and Crime where the victim had been out kind of in a desert area, and it was, she had been mummified. I mean, it just sounds so, it makes you think of like ancient Egypt. That's what I think of when I hear mummification. So Affiant learned Deputy Thomas and Barron continued to search the residence, where they then observed / found a deceased, brown in color, German Shepherd canine. Oh my God, this part's just awful. The deceased canine was located approximately 10 to 15 feet from the deceased female in a closet of the bathroom. I mean, it's just like, wow, horrible. And we don't know how the dog died. They're going to have to do a necropsy on the dog. That's basically that's an animal autopsy, but it's called a necropsy. So they're going to have to figure out how the dog died. And see, I assume there's no obvious sign of trauma to the dog. Deputy Thomas and Barron then proceeded to clear the other portions of the residence. In doing so, they observed a pair of feet and legs on the ground near the kitchen area. Deputy Thomas identified a male to be deceased in an area of the home he believed to be a mudroom. The deceased male, who was found wearing gray sweatpants, a blue in color long sleeve t-shirt, brown slippers, and walking cane. This makes me think that they, either it was getting up for bed or getting up, it was morning time, or it's evening. Don't know. But slippers, maybe he's wearing slippers all day long. Who knows? He's 95 years old with a cane. But This is another important clue. Deputy Thomas indicated he observed a pair of sunglasses located near the decedent's left of his body. Based on Deputy Thomas's training and experience, he suspected the male individual has suddenly fallen. It should say had suddenly fallen. So if the sunglasses are near his body, that makes me think, okay, was this daytime when this happened? That's why I'm thinking maybe it was morning, daytime. Again, we don't know their routines. Deputy Thomas advised the male decedent also showed obvious signs of death, similar and consistent with the female decedent. Deputy Thomas advised there were 2 other dogs located on the property. He advised one of the healthy dogs was initially observed near the deceased female inside the bathroom, and the other healthy dog was observed outside the residence. Can you imagine? This healthy dog is probably sitting there by his owner, like, standing guard or just sitting there like, what's going on? Why won't, what is going on? It's these dogs, like, probably traumatized. Deputy Thomas advised he and Barron searched the remainder of the property and found all other buildings and the garage to be locked and secured. Deputy Thomas again advised he did not observe any signs of forced entry into the residence. Deputy Thomas indicated he did not observe any indication the residence had been rummaged through or items were taken from inside the residence. He advised, based on his training and experience, nothing appeared to be out of place while clearing the residence. So, sounds like they don't think at first look, or at least at first glance or going through here, that this was a break-in or something like that. So Karen Lee says, sounds plausible, Anjanette, daytime. Mel Max says, it's so dry and arid there, it was easy for some areas to become mummified, in my opinion. Yes. Mel Mac, yes, of course. And I agree with you on that too. When we were out there in Santa Fe last year for the trial, it was July. So I didn't do enough research before I went out there. So I packed, I'm thinking July in New Mexico, I'm going to be like, it's going to be hot. It's going to be awful. But then I get out there and I was freezing. And I did not pack the right clothes. I will tell you that right now. And honestly, looking back, I hated everything I wore when I was out there. I was really rushed getting packed. I had like a cat emergency the day before I was leaving. I had to go to the vet. It was crazy. So I was like really not focused on packing. So I was literally just throwing things in a suitcase to get ready. But I got out there and I learned it's arid. It's very dry out there. And I was actually cold when I was out there. I almost had to go shopping. I was like almost freezing. Like Misty, she was the producer I was working with, who I really love and think is fantastic. She had to give me like her denim jacket one day. I was so cold. Like the first day we were there, I was freezing. So it's July and I'm used to, humidity, just being hot as blazes in the summer. And then I get out to New Mexico and I'm like, okay, I see why people really like living here. And it was really cool out there. Like it was just kind of neat, the landscape, all of that, very interesting. So my thing is, because of the sunglasses on Gene Hackman's head, I'm thinking it's possible. He gets up, it's morning. He gets up, like got his slippers on, walking cane. Maybe he's going out with the dogs. Maybe this is something he does. Maybe he walks outside with the dogs and lets them out. For some reason, the third dog is not along for the ride or is in this closet. Who knows why? But we just don't know. But I'm thinking this was a morning type incident. Yeah, David says, poignant, the dog standing by its owner. Yep. Yeah, I just think, the dog's probably like, what is going on? My owner, like your dog, like my dog right now is literally sitting right next to me. She follows me everywhere, and she's opened my one door. Just doesn't latch right here, and she's opened it about 4 times. So yeah, let me look at a few more of your comments before we move forward. Karen says, my mom gave a big veto having cameras in her house when she was alone and not in good health. She figured out we could all spy on her. She envisioned all of us pulling her up, her every movement. Well, I could see that. Yeah. Carolyn says, Karen, yeah, watched a report that said 0 footage to watch, no cameras on the property. Okay. Thanks, guys. And I did see on the search warrant return, it said nothing about seizing cameras. So let's move on. Let's go back to the affidavit and go through the rest of this. Deputy Thomas indicated that he asked blank and blank. Those are the people that found them and the one guy that called 911. When the last, they're missing a lot of words in here, by the way, guys. So may have to add some words since they probably were rushed putting this together. Deputy Thomas indicated that he asked blank and blank when the last had contact with the homeowners, when they last had contact with the homeowners, and they had both advised it was approximately 2 weeks prior. Yikes. Both individuals advised they rarely saw the owners of the residence when conducting routine maintenance on the home. Both indicated they maintained contact with the homeowners through text message and phone calls and primarily communicated with the female homeowner identified as the deceased female, Betsy Arakawa. Yeah, I'm assuming that Gene Hackman maybe wasn't much of a texter, but I don't know that, but you never know. The 2 males identified Betsy's husband as Gene Hackman, however, did not positively identify him as the deceased male. At this time, the male's true identity is unknown until further investigative research can be made/conducted. Detective Thomas and Detective Joel Cano, maybe, advised Santa Fe City Fire Department responded to the location and conducted testing to determine if there were signs of possible carbon monoxide leak or poisoning. Yeah, because you're thinking to yourself, that's very clearly a possibility. CO poisoning, that very well could have happened. Possibly, you find 2 people deceased like this, and it appears they've maybe fallen. He advised the fire department did not locate signs of carbon monoxide leak or poisoning. Those firefighters were identified as Captain Daniel Laranaga, firefighter Adrian Pereira, and engineer firefighter Anthony Raffliff. Fayette New Mexico Gas Company responded to the residence and was conducting active testing on the gas line in and around the residence. Those individuals were identified as, we don't really need their names. As of now, there are no signs of or evidence indicating there were any problems associated to the pipes in and around the residence. Okay, so here's where this gets interesting. Affiant spoke to Corporal Alexandria Hancock, who advised the parcel of land and residence belonged to the trustee of Edgar Gross. Sorry, guys, my throat's kind of getting dry. They go on to say where she found this. Corporal Hancock was the lead investigator in the Rust shooting, and she was on the stand last year testifying as part of this whole thing that blew up and was part of this decision, I guess, not to send these rounds that were turned over to the sheriff's office. She was part of this decision to not turn them over to Alec Baldwin's defense, or, I guess it was mostly the prosecutor's decision. It's really the prosecutor's responsibility to turn over this stuff to the defense in discovery. So when I kind of wondered when I first saw this, like, oh gosh, are Hancock and Popple, Marissa Popple, she was the crime scene investigator who also was part of the Rust thing. I was like, I wonder if they're involved in this, because after, a few months later, and after, the dust had settled with all of that, I I asked if they had been disciplined at all, if any action had been taken based on what happened at the Baldwin trial against Popple and Corporal Hancock, and I was told no. Like they still remained in their positions, etc. Yeah, so I was told they had not suffered any consequences. Obviously, the sheriff's office probably determined that it was the special prosecutor who should have turned over this information. And I don't know, but it wasn't a good look for the sheriff's office, for Hancock and Popple, because they put a report was drafted and on these rounds being turned over by Troy Teskey, this retired police officer who is also a judge in Arizona, who is friends with the armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed's father, Thel Reed. They filled out a report, but they put it under a different case number and didn't put it with the Rust stuff. So it was never turned over to the defense. Like if they had turned over that, even just the report, I think everything would have gone forward. But, that's neither here nor there. So when I saw Corporal Hancock's name, I was like, oh boy. Yes, Karen, I asked. They were not disciplined. So obviously they must have gone through things and determined they didn't think they did anything wrong. So Corporal Hancock was consulted in this. I don't know if she's like intimately involved in this investigation, but the affiant on the search warrant is not Corporal Hancock. Affiant conducted research and found that the Santa Fe County tax parcel website revealed the property was owned by Edgar Gross. Affiant is aware through training and experience, individuals exposed to gas leaks or poisonous gas can suffer immediate and unexpected death. Well, yeah, we know that. Affiant is aware through training and experience that individuals exposed to poisonous gas might not show apparent injuries. The search for and collection of items listed above to include biological material, trace evidence, or latent fingerprints at the residence can assist with the determination and cause of death, of course. There are no immediate signs or indications of blunt force trauma. However, affiant is seeking to seize any blunt force objects in the event there is any indication of blunt force trauma once the Office of Medical Investigations arrives on scene and conducts their initial field investigation and possible cause of death. At this time, the manner and cause of death pertaining to Eugene Jean Allen Hackman and Betsy Arakawa passing is unknown. Affiant believes that the circumstances surrounding the death of the two deceased individuals to be suspicious enough in nature to require a thorough search and investigation because the reporting party found the front door of the residence unsecured and opened. Deputies observed a healthy dog running loose on the property, another healthy dog near the deceased female, a deceased dog laying 10 to 15 feet from the deceased female in a closet of the bathroom, the heater being moved, the pill bottle being opened, and pills scattered next to the female. The male decedent being located in a separate room of the residence and no obvious signs of a gas leak. So you get all these things going on. They're like, we don't know what happened. So it's suspicious. We have to look into it and figure out how they died. And so I think I mentioned this earlier. Suspicious just means they don't know what happened. A lot of people see suspicious and think, oh my God, it means homicide. It doesn't really mean that. It just means we don't know what happened. Got to look into it and we've got to piece this together. At this time, affiant believes there's sufficient probable cause for a search warrant. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to look at some of your, yeah, I don't understand the dog either. And, Mo is saying the dog is what I don't understand. I don't either. And I thought I had read last night, and I think we're going to get some information about that the dog might have been in a crate. But being in a closet in a crate seems weird unless that's just where you keep the crate to keep it out of the way. I mean, was it a puppy? Because, puppies, maybe they were crate training. I don't know. Who knows? Looking at some of your comments here. Yeah, Mel Max says the dog death bugs me. Yeah, it bugs me too. I mean, it would just be really be interesting to know what's going on. So we got the search warrant return, and that's where they talk about everything they seized. So let's pull that up. I did load that in here. Here we go. Oh, it's not really showing. I feel like I need to be able to zoom into that for you guys. You guys might be able to see it a little better. Okay, so here's what they seized. 2 green and color cellular devices, their cell phones, thyroid medication. There's another medication, and I Googled this yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, whenever I got this document. Dilitazem, or I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's a calcium channel blocker. So that's like a heart type medication. Tylenol, MyQuest records, and a 2025 monthly planner. So they must have gone through there. They didn't seize any blunt force trauma type items because obviously they must not have found any or determined they didn't need to seize them. I find it interesting they seized Tylenol. I'm kind of like, unless they're looking to go test the Tylenol to make sure it is indeed Tylenol. My dog is sitting here like literally wanting my attention. It's hilarious. The monthly planner, maybe they're looking to see if they can get some information about their daily routines, but just the cell phones, I don't know if they carried their cell phones with them a lot, but they should be able to determine some of their daily routines from the cell phones. And who knows where they kept them or how they kept them. So I'm looking at more of your comments. A house that size also likely had much bigger closets than what we are typically used to as a closet. Right. Could be a walk-in. Could be like a really big, beautiful walk-in closet off the bathroom. A lot of times that's how some houses are built. They'll have a walk-in closet off the bathroom. Makes sense. You get out of the shower or whatever, time to get dressed, walk into the closet. Mel Max says, my dog runs to the crate if he's scared. Karen asks, Anjanette, is it possible to determine when Betsy died? Seems the pacemaker helps pinpoint Jean's time of death. Yes, we're going to get to that. It's possible to determine when she died. They might be able to piece it together based on, her cell phone. Again, we don't know if she was attached to her cell phone. But I'm assuming they'll be able to figure out, I don't know, did she send a lot of emails? Was she on the computer a lot? They can piece together their daily routine through things like that. So basically yesterday, the sheriff, who I chased across the courthouse lawn, it wasn't really a lawn, it was like a courtyard area, it was concrete, but after this whole thing, I asked him if Hancock and Popple, if there'd be any repercussions. And he said, I don't know yet. He was a nice man. They had to, chase him, do our little thing after that mistrial was declared. Yeah. Beautiful Messy Ball says, when the phone batteries died. That's a good one too. We don't know if they were on the charger or whatever. So there was a press conference yesterday. So let's watch that together and see what we learn, because we did learn 2 really interesting pieces of information. And I think we might even learn more than that. Here we go. You guys see that okay? Yeah. Volume is up. Here we go. Why did it?
But he and Betsy were also longtime residents of our community.
All right, let me back that up. Sorry, it was muted when I had the volume up and then it was muted. It was really weird. Here we go.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. I'm Jennifer Labar Tapia. I'm Santa Fe Film Commissioner. Today, Santa Fe and the film industry mourn the loss of 2 extraordinary individuals, Jean Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. Gene was not only a legendary actor whose talent shaped generations of storytelling, but he and Betsy were also longtime residents of our community, deeply woven into the fabric of Santa Fe. His talent is for generations to come with all of his storytelling. Gene's legacy in film is unparalleled, spanning decades of unforgettable performances, including some that are filmed right here in Santa Fe. His work inspired countless artists, actors, and filmmakers, and his impact will continue to be felt for generations to come. But beyond Hollywood, Gene and Betsy were our neighbors who embraced the Santa Fe lifestyle and embraced Santa Fe as their home. Their kindness, generosity, and love for this city made them more than just icons, but they were a part of our family. Our thoughts are with their loved ones and all who knew them and admired them. We join the film industry, their family, their friends, and all the people of Santa Fe in honoring their memory. Thank you.
And now Santa Fe County Sheriff Adan Mendoza will speak, along with Fire Chief Brian Moya from the Santa Fe County City Fire Department.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sheriff Adan Mendoza, Sheriff for Santa Fe, New Mexico, Santa Fe County. On Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at approximately 1:45 p.m., Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to 1425 Old Sunset Trail, where Gene Hackman, 95, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 65, and a dog were found deceased. An individual arrived to perform maintenance on the residence, became concerned after receiving no answer, and contacted neighborhood security to conduct a welfare check. Security then checked on the residence and observed Mr. Hackman and Miss Arakawa on the ground unresponsive through a window and called 911. Deputies arrived and gained access to the residence, where they observed Mrs. Arakawa deceased. They continued the search of their home and located Mr. Hackman in a separate area of the residence, also deceased. A German Shepherd was also found deceased, and two other dogs who appeared healthy were located on the property. Deputies then secured the scene and notified the Criminal Investigations Division. Due to the unusual circumstances of two decedents in the residence, there was a concern for scene safety. Santa Fe City fire personnel and the New Mexico Gas Company were requested to the scene to test for carbon monoxide or other foreign elements. The scene was deemed safe, and approximately 9:30 p.m., a search warrant was issued and executed on the residence. Now, collected from the residence, from this search warrant, there were 2 green in color cell phones, 2 bottles of medication, 1 bottle of over-the-counter Tylenol, My Request medical records, and a 2025 monthly planner calendar. Those items were secured from the residence for evidentiary purposes. The Santa Fe Animal Control Division worked with family to ensure the safety of the 2 surviving dogs. Investigation personnel worked diligently throughout the night and morning to process the scene for evidence. It should be noted there were no apparent signs of foul play. In the early hours of Thursday, February 27, 2025, Mr. Hackman and Ms. Arakawa were transported to the office of the medical investigator. An autopsy was performed. Initial findings noted no external trauma to either individual. The manner and cause of death has not been determined. The official results of the autopsy and toxicology reports are pending. Just today, I spoke to Dr. Jarrell, the pathologist from the New Mexico Office of the Medical Investigator. This was at 2:00 p.m. today. She advised that there were several tests that were submitted to be expedited. She revealed to me the following information. Both individuals tested negative for carbon monoxide. An initial interrogation was conducted of Mr. Hackman's pacemaker. This revealed that his last event was recorded on February 17th, 2025. I was advised that a more thorough investigation will be completed.
Okay, so that's really interesting, because they're saying they did test their bodies for carbon monoxide. Obviously, we already knew the house, there weren't signs of carbon monoxide or a gas leak in the house, but if whatever was causing that, say it did happen, enough time had passed that maybe you wouldn't have. That's still hanging in the air possibly. And if the door's ajar, maybe it's enough time to air out. But no signs of carbon monoxide poisoning in their bodies at autopsy. And then the last event they're talking about, or I guess the last activity on Gene Hackman's pacemaker, was February 17th. So at least Gene Hackman had been dead since February 17th, which was, I believe, a Monday. Yes, Monday. Or no, that's wrong. Looking at the wrong thing. I am so sorry, guys. So sorry. I had the wrong thing pulled up. No, it was a Monday. It was President's Day. I thought it was a Monday. Okay, I scrolled through my calendar too quickly. So Monday, February 17th is the last event on Gene Hackman's pacemaker. We don't know what that event was, but we just know your pacemaker is constantly kind of doing things, right? You know, it's keeping your heart, doing something with your heart rhythm. So the last activity was February 17th. They were found on the 26th, the afternoon of the 26th. So that is, gosh, 7, 8, 9 days. So at least Gene Hackman had been dead for 9 days. And apparently he had, I think, some signs of mummification as well. So, you know, you would think possibly that his wife may have passed away shortly thereafter, or maybe around the same time. So, wow, that's pretty interesting. So let's continue. It keeps muting every time I pause it. It's so bizarre. Sorry, guys. It's really annoying. I backed it up like 10 seconds. And it did it again. How weird.
On February 17th, 2025, I was advised that a more thorough investigation will be completed. That'll conclude my statement. I will take a few questions. Just so everybody knows, this is an active investigation still. I'll take questions.
Sure. Based on what you know about the conditions of both the bodies, who do you believe died first?
That's a very hard thing to determine. Even with the assistance of OMI, we asked that question because that's a question that we want answered. That's a very hard determination to make, and I don't think even OMI could make that determination based on the initial autopsy. Any other questions?
In that 2025 planner that was mentioned in the search warrant return, were there events scheduled for either member of the couple for the coming weeks?
Again, that'll be part of our investigation. We will look and try to gain access to the cell phones. We'll be analyzing cell phone data, phone calls, text messages, events, photos in the cell phone to try to piece a timeline together. One of the things is in an investigation is we try to piece a timeline together, usually before the event happens, and that gives us a lot of information. But in this case, it seems like we're doing a reverse timeline. We're doing a timeline from the time of death and the autopsy and the results, and we're going to start working our way backwards. We're going to do both, and then hopefully make a determination what may have happened to both the individuals.
On that timeline,
Sasha.
When you were saying these last events on the pacemaker was February 17th, would that kind of give you a sign that probably the day that he died, they've been dead for about 10 days?
According to the pathologist, I think that is a very good assumption that was his last day of life.
Is there any surveillance video?
Why are the bills such important evidence?
Okay, so of course that was his last day of life. I mean, you might be able to live if your pacemaker stops, but I mean, if you need a pacemaker, I would assume, you know, if the thing, let's say the thing stops working, it's not going to be good for you. So I think the pacemaker is a probably a very reliable way of telling his time of death. And then, you know, the pacemaker, I don't think is going to be working if it's not going to do anything if you're not alive, if you pass away. So did Gene Hackman possibly have a cardiac event? We don't know. But it's just really weird that he's found in the med room with his slippers, sunglasses sunglasses by his body, I should say. Who knows? Maybe he's like going to go somewhere in the morning, slippers on, sunglasses, walking cane, something happens. Does he have a cardiac event? It's possible. So let me start this back up.
The pills.
Okay.
The finding of the pills being such important evidence, and could that have been part of the cause of death?
Well, of course, they're important evidence. These are things that I think are important for the pathologist and OMI to consider to try to make a determination what the cause and manner of death are. So all that information is collected, not just for us, but we can provide that information to the pathologist and OMI so they can try and make a determination of what the manner and cause is. And I think that's important for OMI also.
Sheriff, was there any surveillance video, and is that helping you to determine what may have led up to this?
That's a good question, and that question's been asked. So, you know, I respect the Mr. Hackman's and Ms. Arakawa's regard for privacy. I think everybody here understands that they were very private individuals and a very private family. There is no surveillance, as we know of right now, in the interior of the residence or the exterior of the residence that is going to help us determine a timeline or events that happened.
Mr. Sheriff, have investigators,
Sir.
Tom Manson with CBS News, have investigators been able to get into the obtained cell phones?
Not at this time. We have them in our possession. Those were collected yesterday. It's going to take a process. We do have software, and we may have to reach out to other agencies for assistance to get past, if they're password protected, to get past the passwords and gain access to that information. So this is some other things that it's going to take.
Sorry, guys. Somebody just rang my doorbell. Bella. Here, I'll introduce you to Bella because somebody's ringing. I don't know who's ringing my doorbell. Come here, Bella. So she'll stop barking. Bella. Come here, Bella. Come here, Bella. Okay, so this is Bella, and she's heard somebody ring the doorbell, so let her out. Okay, anyway. So there you go. So let's continue playing. No surveillance cameras. So we answered that question. And it wasn't on the search warrant return, so we kind of knew they didn't seize any surveillance cameras.
Sheriff, is there any information on the dog? There are names, Nikki McClellan from the Albuquerque Journal. There are names on prescription bottles. Do we know any idea as to who was taking any of those medications?
Yeah, due to HIPAA, I don't want to release who the medication was prescribed to or what the medication is. I think that's I think there's a HIPAA concern there, so I won't release that information.
Sheriff, do you know the nature of the pills that were found by, what were those pills there?
What were they? Yeah, I think I just answered that question. I think I stated I'm not going to release the actual medication or who it was prescribed to due to HIPAA questions. Sir.
Hold on, guys. I'm going to pause here for a second. Okay, so let's talk about the medication here for a second. So we have a nurse in the chat, which is great. Sherry M. So Sherry says they should request the info from the pacemaker company, which I'm sure they will. So sad. Yeah, very sad. First of all, you know, I think that we can probably deduce, and you know, it's an assumption, of course, it's speculation. Of course, Betsy could have had heart issues too. We just don't know. But Gene Hackman had a pacemaker. And the calcium channel blocker medication, I'm assuming that was his medication. Because what it does is it keeps, it relaxes the muscles, dilates blood vessels, and slows the heart rate. And that is one of the medications that was taken from the scene. So I think we can probably say that was probably his medication. The thyroid medication, we don't know whose that was. And then this Tylenol that they took, I'm still, I'm sure they took any medication that they found there that they felt they should take. I was actually surprised they didn't take more items from the house. Seems very strange to me, but what do I know? I'm not a cop. But you would think I guess they can always go back if they absolutely had to. But maybe they think this is a medical thing. So let's go and listen again a little more. I don't know the last question that was asked here. We'll back up a second here.
I think I stated I'm not going to release the actual medication or who it was prescribed to due to HIPAA.
I don't think the HIPAA is a big deal at this point, but I mean, maybe he's been advised he shouldn't discuss that.
I think that's a question for the pathologist. It's with that information, I'm assuming that at the time of death that they were negative for carbon monoxide, which means to me that that is possibly ruled out. That's another conversation I think that we will have with the pathologist and OMI to make sure that that's still not indication, but it sounds like that's ruled out.
Were there any signs that Betsy was under any form of distress?
I don't have that information. Again, I didn't personally see the individuals, so there's no indication that there was any stress. There was no indication of any of that I can tell or that I can share, unfortunately. Hold on. Anybody else? I know you've asked a question.
Sheriff, was there any significance to the space here being located near her head? That detail.
I wish we could actually hear the questions a little better.
No, I don't think the space, now that we've ruled out carbon monoxide, unless there's something else that comes back in the toxicology report that we have to look, we're going to look at everything, right? We have photographs, we've documented everything that was close to the body in the room. Then we'll look at that a little closer. But right now, there's no indication that has anything to do with it.
Were you able to determine whether they fell or not? Was there any trauma evidence on the body to suggest a fall?
No, I don't think there was any indication that again there was no trauma indicated on the body. I'm assuming if they would have fell or injured themselves or a head injury or brain injury, that would have been discovered by the pathologist. So I'm going to say that they weren't.
Just to follow up, that you saw the sunglasses and the cane on the floor, according to the reports, that would seem to go against that.
That's up to the detective and OMI to work out.
Can you say?
I'm gonna take two more questions, and then that's gonna be it, sir.
Can you say what the space heater was powered by? Was it a gas powered or electric powered space heater?
I don't know that information right off the top.
On the timeline,
Sir.
How long do you think we'll have more concrete answers on what happened?
Again, we're waiting for the autopsy results and the toxicology. The doctor, the pathologist shared that information, which I think some tests were expedited. And so she shared that information with me because she thought it was relevant to the case and important for the public to know. I don't know. I don't know when the cause and the manner will be determined officially, or when the toxicology results come. I'm assuming the pathologist will wait for the toxicology to come back, so that'll help her make her decision on what the cause and manner is. But it could be months or 3 months or longer, in my experience. One more question.
When is the last known contact with either Betsy or Jean?
Again, that's been one of our challenges because of their privacy. So one of the challenges is trying to determine that timeline. I think the event of the pacemaker gives us an idea, but we're gonna sift through the cell phone records. We're gonna go through the planner. We're contacting workers, maintenance workers, family members, security. We're gonna be talking to security. It's a secure subdivision. There's in and out that I believe is documented. So we're working with them to try and determine when the last contact was, and that'll help us put together the timeline. So thank you, everybody. I hope this answered some questions. And again, if we get more information, we will release that. I know there is concern and interest in Mr. Hackman and Mrs. Arakawa, and I just appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. So they'll release more information when they get it. They are expediting the toxicology, which, you know, I'm sure they want to figure this out quickly. Toxicology can take anywhere from like 8 to 10 weeks in some states. So it would be interesting to see what's in the toxicology. But it kind of makes you think, you know, them being in 2 different rooms, that, and then the pills being scattered on the countertop. I mean, that seems very like hasty and rushed. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Seems almost like reactionary, but I find it strange that they're not talking about what the pills are that were found on the countertop, but we already know what the medication was that was seized from the residence. So I find that interesting, to say the least. So that's what we know so far. And it would be nice to get some more information. It would be interesting to know when he last spoke with his daughters. There was this New York Times report talking about how I think that somebody had emailed Betsy around the time of Gene Hackman's birthday, which was in late January. He turned 95 in January. And so let me see if I can find that. It was a New York Times report. I'm going to pull that up. And it was a quote in an email. Kind of ended the story. Someone sent this to me yesterday, somebody I work with. Yeah, here it is. So let me post this in. We'll share this. And I'm not logged in on this browser. See if I can remember my New York Times password. Anyway, I'll just read it to you. This ends. Oh, this is interesting. One of Mr. Hackman's daughters from his first marriage, Leslie Ann Hackman, said in an interview with the Daily Mail that she hadn't spoken to her father in several months. She described him as being in good health for 95, noting that he still did Pilates and yoga. On January 31st, a day after Mr. Hackman's birthday, Miss Arakawa emailed a friend, Leslie Allen, to thank her and her husband for their birthday wishes and for the desserts they had sent to their New Mexico home. Time just flies, Miss Arakawa wrote in the email. So we all have to have fun while we can. So that was pretty interesting. Makes you wonder. That's why I'm kind of wondering, did Gene Hackman have a cardiac kind of event, being found in the mudroom with a pair of sunglasses next to his body and a walking cane and his slippers? Maybe his wife discovered him. I don't know. It's all speculation at this point in time. But interesting that his one daughter had not spoken to him in several months. Maybe they had a strained relationship. You just don't know. Relationships are very difficult, especially family relationships. So there you have it. I'm going to see if you guys have any other interesting thoughts or questions. But it sounds like, it could have been since Gene Hackman had sunglasses next to his body. And again, no clue like when he goes to bed or how early he gets up in the morning, but makes me kind of think that maybe he passed away or whatever happened in the morning. Somewhere in Canada, there was a case in the Caribbean where a family was poisoned from insecticide in the rental house. The type used should have only been used outside. Wow, that would be very concerning if that were the case. Karen says it takes 6 months in North Carolina for toxicology. Personal experience with a relative. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, different states have different things, but in a case like this where it's suspicious, it's high profile, they're probably going to they want to figure this out. And especially, you know, I'm sure the sheriff knows a lot more than he's saying. I'm sure that the pathologist said to him, you know, I'm leaning toward this, or I think, you know, it could be this, but they're not going to put that out because they don't want to have to backtrack. Let's see. Real bizarre story. Yeah. So I'm wondering, Sherry M, if you're still around, what do you think about my potential theory that Gene Hackman maybe suffered some sort of cardiac event? Then something happens, he's in the mudroom and he can't get help or whatever. And then his wife somehow, maybe, you know, the pills being scattered about, maybe something, she decided to end her life. We don't know that though. It's all speculation. So, Sherry, what do you think about the possibility of him having a cardiac event if you're still in here? I'll just throw that out there really quickly. I don't know if she's still here, but I just thought I would try. Okay, guys. I don't know if Sherry's still here. So we'll, you know, we can probably wrap it up. But yeah, it's a really weird case. Really weird case. And everybody is saying how incredibly private they were. I also read another thing, that Betsy had Gene Hackman on a very, and who knows, I read this, guys, I haven't verified it completely, that she had him on a very strict diet. So maybe there was concern about his heart. You know, the calcium channel blockers, he's, you know, if that was indeed his medication, maybe there was a concern there. Busby Ford says, I think he had an event, or I think he had an event and she couldn't deal with it. That's very possible. I mean, it's very possible. And, you know, when I worked in local news, I did some stories about, you know, people who've taken their own lives and stuff like that. And I talked to somebody and I always thought it was like planned out, but apparently that's not true. And it can be an impulsive decision. And maybe, you know, you just wonder if without him, what else was her life? Like, we haven't heard that she had children or anything like that. Maybe I just haven't seen that. So if she does, I apologize. The thing with the dog, though, is really weird. And I'm surprised nobody asked about a necropsy for the dog, because I think they do need to do a necropsy for the dog. That will tell how the dog died. And if the dog was in a crate in the closet, it can't get out. So more than likely, it would have dehydrated before it would have starved to death, which is really sad, horrible. I'm going to Google just really quickly. Yeah, I thought I had heard or read that the dog was found in a crate in the closet, but now I'm kind of wondering. Yeah, the dog was found, and if I missed it in the presser, I apologize. The dog was found dead in its crate or kennel, as noted by the sheriff, and the kennel was found in the closet. Maybe I missed that in the presser. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, they had been married for 30 years or more, 30 years or longer. I read that they met in California. Yeah, Mel Max says, yes, talks on humans and dog is imperative. I agree. They really need to do a necropsy on the dog. Yeah, Harlot Oscara says, the dog being left in the crate makes me question her taking her own life. Sounds like it was locked in and dehydrated. I would hope she would have let it out first if she did it on purpose. Yeah, you would think, but people aren't always thinking clearly. I don't know, Carolyn. Carolyn asked, do you think she opened the door to let the healthy dogs go free? Don't know. Not sure. I don't know, but it's pretty crazy. I was reading too that I forget which actor said it, that Gene Hackman could be kind of difficult to work with or whatever. I don't know, probably, but it's neither here nor there. It has nothing to do with anything. A lot of people can be difficult to work with. But I think we'll all be watching this to see how it pans out and what happens and what comes of it. Who here is interested in the Brian Kohberger case? Because I'm thinking about doing something else on that, another live on that. I did one last weekend, and then I had a lot of new stuff to talk about, and then the week kind of got away from me. And so I never kind of wrapped up. I kind of wanted to do a part 2 on what I did last week and then never did it. And then some other things developed because there was a lot we didn't get to talk about. So Webby's interested. Other people are interested. Okay, I'm going to work on that and try to do that. Dead in the Water says he is apparently autistic. Well, I don't know if that's true. That's what the defense is floating that, putting that out there. But we'll talk about that on another live. So I will post that when I'm going to do that. I'll schedule it. And remember, guys, like and subscribe, share if you wish. But thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. This was interesting, and we'll keep looking into it, keep tabs on it, and see what is going on. David says the 2025 day timer may be telling. Yeah, the day planner may be telling. I mean, it would be interesting to see if the planner has things scheduled out for how long, if there are any notes in there, that type of thing. Mo, you have a great weekend too. Okay, everybody. I will schedule this next one for the Kohberger case, the Idaho 4 case. And great. Thanks again, guys. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for joining me. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.